What highly illegal thing took place at your high school? A teacher and an administrator embezzled millions. I didn't even know all this happened until years after graduation. Some of my friends had the teacher in question. 2 kids had sex in the toilets a few years ago and other 2 kids burnt a desk inside the class. We had a science teacher say if you don't put goggles on, I'm going to have to spray you in the eyes with Lysol, which was probably not illegal until the student tried to call her bluff. She wasn't bluffing. Not highly illegal, but not legal either. I figured out how to make fake IDs in my home darkroom and showed a friend how to do it. This was in the early 70s. Before Photoshop. When analog darkrooms and chemical-based photography were the only option. He went into production in the school darkroom. His quality sucked. He got caught. My quality was excellent. But I only made one for me. Spanish teacher got arrested for illegally bringing over a 14-year-old Argentinian girl and keeping her as a sex toy. But since she was here illegally and wouldn't testify against him, she was deported and he came back to school later in the year. Come to find out a couple of years later he had molested like half of the girls' volleyball team he was the coach of. A terrorist bomb exploded just in front of our school when I was in middle school. We were studying when it happened. There was a big smoke. Glasses were shattered. Everybody rushed outside as soon as they heard the explosion. I just stood dumbstruck in my seat for a full 10 seconds before being able to move. Years later, this is still the most overwhelming experience in my life. TLDR guy bashed another guy's skull in over tugs. One afternoon a while after school was over, a couple kids started a drug deal. The basher Goliath, he lived up to that name too. Absolute unit, was a renowned druggie who did every drug known to man and 7 only known to dolphins. And the bushy, whom I'll call Carl, tried to sell Goliath some heroin strong enough to kill a baby elephant. Goliath proceeds to take some and test it out on the spot, but proceeds to notice that it is a bit weaker than promised, and was basically no stronger than water. Goliath, a bit angry he was undersold, grabs Carl and smashes his head into TJE nearest brick wall. Repeatedly, until parts of Carl's brain splatter over the wall. Goliath snaps back to reality, realizing what he just did, and ducks and runs like a madman, as anyone in that situation would. He was caught however and given a long sentence. Not sure if he is still out there alive or if he got his head bashed by a bigger Goliath. Note: I was not there to witness it in action, so take this with a grain of salt or 12. A lot of it is what I heard. However, I did see the brains on the wall with my own eyes. And Carl's quick, most definitely not open casket funeral. I interviewed to teach at a high school once. One of the questions from the school board was, can you avoid sleeping with your students? Me: yes. Yes I can. School board thinks I'm great. Principal thinks I'm great. Superintendent of schools doesn't think I'm cut out for the job. Gives me the runaround. Principal is trying to help me push through it and get hired, but I finally give up and get a normal job elsewhere. Superintendent hires his nephew. Wonder why he gave me the runaround. Who promptly has sex with a student and gets fired. I still see the principal occasionally. He always apologizes. I wanted to hire you. He's way too nice to have been stuck at that lousy school. Film crew lied about what kind of film they were making. Turns out it was porn. So my high school is the setting of the film. The cheerleaders. Pretty sure that's illegal. Yeah, it's pretty tame. What do you want from me? I live in Cupertino. My senior year, one of my friends was murdered by her boyfriend and he drove around with her body in the trunk for a couple of hours. Also, a couple of kids got caught giving each other piercings in the stairwells. Guy would burn copies of the new Eminem album for people for $5. Much illegal. Probably made a fortune. Who has $15 for a CD? Plus, mom said the language is too explicit, so she'll only buy me the Walmart censored version. Football team had an incident where somehow a Gatorade bottle ended up going up a freshman's butt. Edit: hey gold. Nice. My teacher was molesting my 14-year-old classmate for a while. He went to jail and is still there 20 years later because another past victim came forward. so that's pretty illegal. One of the old teacher's aides got arrested for child porn and filming the elementary kids' bathroom. Probably the pedophilic cult masked as a NAAA group that met in the basement somewhat regularly. The principal was ducking students. A few years after I graduated, some parents found out and took him to court. He hanged himself before he could be convicted. Edit, corrected the word from hung. Had a pretty controversial case involving a handicapped student who had cerebral palsy and muscular dystrophy. His parents filed a lawsuit accusing two of his handlers of abusing him by dumping him out of his chair and forcing him to wear a neck brace so he'd look them in the eye. Worst part was I don't think the handlers suffered any consequences. I looked up articles on it and all of them highlight the abuse and lawsuit, but none follow through with the results, which is frustrating. My golf coach got arrested in Kansas for driving with a spare tire full of sugar. Idiot. You put air in tires. Two students planned and carried out a coordinated attack on one of the math teachers by waiting by the top of the stairs between periods. And when he passed by them to go down the steps, one of them pushed him from behind while the other put his leg out to trip him. The teacher fell down the steps and broke his neck and back and was paralyzed from the neck down. The kid's reasoning: because one of them was dropped from the basketball team because he was failing that teacher's math class. Both of them were 15 years old. So they didn't get jail time, they both got expelled and were sent to juvenile detention. The teacher sued the school district and got a settlement in the lower 7-digit range. This was middle school. But our computer teacher was fired after they caught him watching porn in the computer lab during lunch. Rumor has it, he was watching on the big projector screen they use for teaching. The cool gang of kids, not me, I've never been anywhere near cool, got into a dare contest which ended up with one of them having to get a pair of knickers from a particular girl. She didn't want to play the game, so he ended up cornering her in a boys' toilet and cutting them off her with a knife. We never saw him at the school again. All games were banned. Our football coach took off with one of the girls in the high school and moved to Mexico and married her. He had a wife and kids. They then hired a brand new football coach who was 23 years old. Before the end of his first year, he was hooking up with an 18-year-old senior girl. They also took off and went somewhere. We went without a coach for a couple years. Kids were selling candy and snacks to other students, obliterating the monopoly that the vending machines once held. Administration cut that out real quick. Over spring break one year, the entire hockey team and the cheerleaders all went to rehab. The goalie was dealing coke to all of them. Illegal material filming. Two underage seniors from my graduating class filmed a full-on porno with some 20-year-old dude. Circulated to like 30 kids in the class and was a huge scandal for the school for a while. One of them was expelled while the other was just given a suspension cause she otherwise had a clean record and was on one of the sports teams. Not sure if they ever found the dude. Grew up in a small town. When Olam got sick and was dying, our ag teacher just had us go out behind the classroom building and shoot it. We ended up pulling a massive tapeworm out of it. Definitely not legal to have guns on campus, let alone use them. Had a guy selling heroin. After that there was a weekly police presence. Also, a kid bound a girl to a chair, gagged her and stuffed her in a cupboard in the woodworking shop. He claims it was to help her complete the sponsored silence she had been doing that day. I now feel like I had a really tame school experience. A mentally handicapped student beat up a teacher while yelling, "Where's my cookie dart?" Teacher sexually harassed like 12 students. The issue is everybody loved that guy. He won Best Teacher award like 2 days before his arrest. P.S. No, this isn't Persona 5. This actually did happen. I'm not making a clever joke about Kamoshida, although I probably would have. This was a real guy. 1Mr. Chew. Allegedly there was a girl who would film herself being intimate with her dog and sell the videos pics. Knew a guy that sold sugar in class and tried to offer a girl pot to sleep with him. There was also some public underage sex in one of the halls that lead to a girl starving herself until she miscarried. Drama teacher slept with the hottest chicks in class and nothing ever happened to him. A teacher was caught having sex with an autistic student. I believe the student claimed to have loved her. Her dad was also a teacher at the same school and he left after the incident came out. Edit. Teacher was female. Student was male. Pre-internet days. Kinda. CDs were a thing. I had a massive CD collection and a gigantic book in my locker. I typed up lists of all the artists and albums I owned. So I had these flyers everywhere and for $3 a CD I'd burn you a copy. This was right when CD burners came out and my stepdad was super into the latest and greatest tech, so we had the cool gadgets when they came out. I eventually was caught, but for a time I made killer money. Best comment of the day. When my crush was tipsy, I was taking care of her, then she was removing my sweater she was wearing, and then her shirt went along with the sweater. Instead of pulling it down, I watched in awe.